Hey, my guest, you may remember from the 90s in WCW, he is the one, the only Roadblock. Joe, how are you, sir?
I'm blessed, thank you, Brian. How about yourself?
I'm doing good. I'm glad that we were able to make this interview work.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank the Lord.
So, going back, did you grow up a professional wrestling fan, or what drew you into the sport?
Actually, yeah. I mean, I remember when I was a little kid, believe it or not, me and my buddy would end up setting up a little ring down in his basement with the rope, and we'd tie our thumbs, with tape, tape
Mhm.
our thumbs up, and I'd be like Chief White Owl. I don't know if you remember going back that far, where he was a wrestler back in the '70s. Um, you know, he'd poke people in the eye with his thumb because he'd tape it. But anyways, yeah, and and then it got to a point where I ended up getting into junior high school, going to junior high school, and I started wrestling there, and then I started wrestling in high school, and then I started wrestling in college, and it really turned for me as far as the professional wrestling aspect of it, if you know what I mean.
Mhm.
Because when I wrestled amateur, I'm saying to myself, wow, this is a whole lot different than what's on TV. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And realizing all the time that it was, actually entertainment. But and how about this one? When I was in college, the local college here, the athletic director came up to me because I live in the hometown of Gorilla Monsoon.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if there was a connection there or not, but he came up to me one day and he said, "Hey, Joe, would you be interested in wrestling professionally?" And at that time, again, I just was amateur, and I was in college, and I mean, it was 1,000% real to me. You know what I mean? I mean,
Mhm.
wrestling. I don't know if you ever wrestled amateur or not, but it's just an adrenaline rush like no other. And I felt like, nah, I'm not into that. There, at the time, no, no, that's not me. You know what I mean? But as I got older and that, and I realized it's a business.
Absolutely.
Actually, it's a lucrative business if you get the right spot and you're in the right place at the right time.
Now, back then, how hard was it to find a professional wrestling score to even get into it?
Brother, I'm going to tell you how hard it was. My actions will tell you how hard it was. I looked all over to find a place where I can, go
Mhm.
uh, to get into the professional wrestling. In fact, I even wrote resumes to the major wrestling federations back then, and no response or anything. And so I said to myself, I know the WWF is coming to Rochester, and I know that they go and work out at Samson's gym. So I said, I'm going to go there and talk to one of the wrestlers, and maybe one of them guys could give me a lead.
Mhm.
So what happened was I went there, and Brutus Beefcake was there working out with Hogan. And I said, let them do their thing. I don't want to be rude or anything disrespectful. So I waited till, um, you know, Lester took a break, and, he's, wiping himself down. I said, hey, excuse me, would you mind helping me out? He goes, I'm working out. Leave me alone right now. I said, wow, okay, no problem. I'm not here looking for no problems. And then Hogan, I said, excuse me, Hulk, could you help me out as far as giving me some info as far as getting into the wrestling business? Brother, nobody helped me. I did it on my own. I don't know anybody. And so, okay, no problem. And so I said, I got to do what I got to do. And so I went to the Rochester War Memorial at the time, and I went there, and I'm sitting in the stands by myself and minding my business. And the one man gang came out, and he's, waving his hands to the crowd saying, come on, anybody here wants me? Come on. and my adrenaline rush was just flowing so hard and heavy, man. I just jumped up and I ran down and slid under the rope and jumped up, and I was face to face with him. And you know, I went to do like a body slam on him, brother. He's 5 something pounds. He's 6'10", bigger than me. I mean, and it's like this guy was like concrete. He's not moving. So what I did was I dropped to my knee and went amateur on him and did a Navy. I took him down to the mat and I jumped on him and I'm holding him down in the pinning position and I'm looking for the ref to count like a mark that I was, and he's yelling for security. And at the time, Slick was his manager, and so Slick he came over and he started beating me on my back with his cane, because he had a cane. He always walked to the ring with a cane. He was wailing on me, but at the time, brother, my adrenaline was just so high. I didn't even feel it. And so all of a sudden he pulled my hair, because I had long hair at the time as well. And, you got to go where your hair goes. So I went up, I got up, and I'm not looking to, do anything drastic or anything. I just wanted to, get seen and hopefully I'd get a contact. And what happened was he walked to the corner, and as he walked to the corner, I just mushed him, pushed him away from me. And as I did that, I turned around, and lo and behold, here's the one-man gang walking towards me. And I'm saying, good Lord, what am I going to do now? And so I had my back to the ropes, and he's about 3 feet from me. And at the same time, the security guards grabbed my ankles from under the bottom rope, and they just pulled me out. And the one-man gang, he fell on me, and that was an experience. But and then I went into the back, and they got me handcuffed, and they said, "What are you doing? What's the reason for you doing this?" I said, "Well, I have, my resume. Again, I'm a big mark at this time. I mean, I know it's a work, but I'm acting like a mark." And I said, "Well, I got my resume in my sock, because I wore sweatpants." And I believe it was Rene Goulet, or I don't think it was Pat Patterson. They said, "That's not going to do anything for you." I said, "I know, and that's why I did what I did." So Billy Jack Haynes, he's a hooker, and he says, "Well, you want to wrestle? We can wrestle." I said, take the cuffs off. I got no problem. Like I'm supposed to be scared. Oh no, I don't want you. Take the cuffs off. I mean, you could talk big and bad with the cuffs on behind my back. And Renee or whoever it was said, "Billy, go, get out of here, go get out of here." And so they took me basically to the police station and let me out on my own recognizance. And from there, it was all on the news and radio and the paper. And somebody got a hold of me, a buddy of mine. Well, he wasn't a buddy of mine at the time, but he got a hold of me and we became good friends. And he said, "Have you ever heard of the Monster Factory?" I said, "I've never heard of any place to be able to go get into the wrestling. And I would have done that rather than jumped in the ring." And lo and behold, he connected me with Larry Sharp and the Monster Factory. So I went to New Jersey, and I ended up going there, and that's where it all started, basically.
Was there anything starting out that was harder for you or that came natural for you when you started training in professional wrestling?
The strategy, as far as the mindset, as far as you got to turn this into a storyline, basically. You know what I mean? And I wasn't used to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was used to just going in there and locking up and taking down and pinning, and going to the God bless Larry Sharp, but he never got in the ring with me one time and showed me anything. And I really didn't learn anything at the Monster Factory other than how to take a bump, how to hit the ropes. And that was from guys that would come to his school to just freshen up on wrestling, or Larry might have had like an independent card coming up. You know what I mean? Because Larry would
Mm-hmm.
run shows once a month, you know, in New Jersey, and they would come and warm up to do that. And other than that, I never really learned anything at Larry Sharp's Monster Factory. But I was there at the time, Brian, when Vince, it was, and I'll tell you something, this is everything as far as life. Timing. Timing is everything, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I say that is because the time that I went there was when Vince was trying to deregulate the Athletic Commission because they
Mm-hmm.
were gouging him. You know what I mean? No matter where he went, they were getting a big chunk of his pocket. And Vince, he's shrewd and rude, and you know, and so anyways, what happened was, the Monster Factory was a pretty much well-known, wrestling school throughout the world, let alone the country.
Mm-hmm.
And, people from all over were coming there. You know what I mean? Rolling Stone magazine. I got an article in Rolling Stone magazine from being there. They did an article in People magazine. A couple, what do you call it? Adult magazines. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just there at the right place at the right time and got some exposure like that. Um, and that's just a blessing that I was there at that time, even though I didn't feel that I got trained by Larry
Mm-hmm.
Sharp. You know what I mean?
So after training, did you go somewhere else to train, or where did you feel that you
Well,
started to get your name out there and get that momentum behind you?
I was at Larry Sharp's Monster Factory, I'm going to say, for about 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't find myself getting anywhere or going anywhere. And I heard that Puerto Rico, they'll they love big guys, and they'll help you get experience there. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I got a hold of Carlos Colon, and I went over to Puerto Rico for like 3 months, and I trained a little bit over there as well as I was wrestling over there. I probably wrestled over there probably for about 6 months off and on. I went there back and forth probably 2, 3 times, but I stayed there like 3 months at a time.
Mm-hmm.
While I was over there, I met Victor Quinones. God bless him, a super super nice guy, and he hooked me up with I don't know if you ever heard of SWS over in
Mm-hmm.
Japan.
Yep.
They were just starting out, and they were looking for new talent, fresh talent, and he asked me if I wanted to go, and I said absolutely. And I went over there. It was like just for like 2 shows. It was a weekend. And when I went there, I asked Kendo Nagasaki if I could come there and train, because in Japan they pay you to train,
Mm-hmm.
and you get to wrestle as well. You know what I mean? So I mean, you got the best of both worlds. You paid to get trained, and you get paid to wrestle. And I lived there for 6 months. I had a contract with them. And now the first time I went over there, it was WWF guys and other foreigners, independent.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And when I signed my contract with SWS, which was like 4 months later, I went there in December, and then I went over in March to do my contract. They had a deal with WWF where no more foreigners are allowed to come over there, but I already had signed a contract. So I was so blessed, Brian,
Mm-hmm.
that I was the only one other than WWF guys coming to the SWS, to Japan
Mm-hmm.
to wrestle in their company. And in the process, I met, guys from WWF, and I was there for the 6 months and that.
So you did a lot those early couple years within professional wrestling, and you traveled a lot, and you got a lot of different experiences and styles before WCW even came to be. That's incredible.
Yeah, I'm truly blessed. And I wrestled, independence here for a couple of years as well with the Savoldis,
Mm-hmm.
ICCW, I believe it was. Yeah. And that was a part of me paying my dues, though.
Mm-hmm.
I I respect that and understand that and appreciate that, and it taught me a lot.
So how did WCW come to be? How did you get on their radar?
Well, the trips that I was making to Japan after I left SWS, I got a call from Victor Quinones, asked me if I wanted to go over there and wrestle for Wing
Hmm.
because him and some other guy, Japanese gentleman, opened up a independent company there, and I went over there. And when I went over there, um, Kevin Sullivan was there, and he was wrestling, and we met, and Eric Embry, who else? There was a couple other guys. I don't know if you ever heard of Pogo,
Hmm.
and then there was these two headhunters. They were Dominicans. Jason. What's his name? Corporal Kirshner, Mike.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so we were all wrestling for this here um, company that Victor Quinones wing. And Kevin Sullivan said, "Brother, man, you have some serious facial expressions when you wrestle." He says, "If I ever get a spot somewhere, I will bring you in." And that always said in the back of my mind. And I ended up leaving Japan, and then I ended up going to Mexico.
Hmm.
And I was wrestling in Mexico, and then I went back to Puerto Rico, and then I did some independence again. And then after that, by that time, it was around '96, and Kevin Sullivan was the booker at WCW. And I called him up, and he brought me in, and I was blessed with that. But I mean, there were just so many guys there. It's
Hmm.
like you get lost in the shuffle, and the guys that were on top, they weren't looking to let anybody get any kind of a upper hand on them or get over on them or take their spots. I mean, it's a vicious business. You know.
So how were those early years in the early time in WCW and when you weren't working like TV tapings and pay-per-views and stuff, was the power plant an option like to keep you busy or did they let you do outside stuff or was it just when they
Well,
needed you they call?
I was on a nightly. I was on
Hmm.
a nightly, so they couldn't tell me what I could do, what I couldn't do, unless they wanted to give me a deal. And they
Hmm.
were giving everybody deals except for me. But see, I had a job home in Rochester. I worked for the city,
Hmm.
and I let that be known that I had a job in the city of Rochester. But my supervisor at the time was a huge wrestling fan, and he would let me go to like down in Florida, and we wrestled in Universal Studios for 3 weeks at a time, 3 times a year. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And my supervisor said, "Joe, anytime, any day, you go and wrestle. Don't worry about your job here. You're locked in." And I said, "Thank you. Like I said, I'm so blessed, Brian." And so I was on the nightly. You know what I mean? And that's what I did for 2 years. With the WCW. And in the process, it's funny. I seen your podcast with Hugh Morris,
Hmm.
Bill Mott, and he's actually one of the reasons why I seen you or text you that, hey man, I'm more than willing to do this podcast, which is it's a blessing, man. And everything is clicky in the wrestling business. You know what I mean? And in the WCW was Hugh Morris, Bill DeMott, myself, Johnny Grunge, Mike Durham, and Rocco Rock, Ted Petty.
Hmm.
It was the four of us guys that would always we called ourselves the Chubba Bubbas. You know what I mean? And all four of us
Hmm.
got a tattoo on the back of our necks, and the cross. And actually, the Mexicans all got a cross on the back of their neck in a different style, like Juventud and Rey Mysterio and you know all the Mexicans. But I enjoyed it. I was blessed and had a good time for the 2 years. It wasn't like I was on the road every day. A couple times a month. Other
Hmm.
than the Universal Studios, I did one pay per view, which was the two rings together.
Hmm. War
You know,
games.
yeah, and that was it. I mean, with the WCW.
Was there any particular moments that stand out to you personally during your time in WCW that mean something to you?
Um, I'm gonna say, Bill Goldberg. You know, he's the luckiest man alive. Or let me put it this way: he's the luckiest man to ever lace a pair of wrestling boots, man.
Hmm.
Reason why I say that is because when I was there, he didn't do anything. I mean, anything. And then all of a sudden they said, okay, we're going to start pushing him. We're going to start letting him wrestle. This brother never, ever paid any dues, Brian. Never
Hmm.
paid. He never went on a road trip 10 miles from Atlanta to do, a independent show. His first match was with Hugh Morris. The second match was with, uh, what's his name? Oh, I can't think of it right now. He was Ming's cousin. Oh, what the heck's his name? But anyways, I was his third match. And bringing up what you're saying is, I felt good that they allowed me to work with him, being so green. Not that I'm anybody special or I was a great worker myself, but to be able to get in the ring with him and call the match for him
Hmm.
was a highlight for me, knowing how much of a push that they gave him. You know what I mean? And that
Hmm.
was my job. You know what I mean? Was to get him over and make him look good, and because I could have turned any second. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I mean, because he didn't know anything about wrestling, nothing, and that was one of my higher moments. There was when I wrestled Goldberg because, like I said, I mean, you know, I helped get this guy over in very, very beginning of his career. You know,
Hmm.
what I mean? And another highlight was, working with Jim Dugan. I mean, he's the best, man. We had several good matches, and working with the Giant, working with Luger.
Hmm.
I had a good time the whole 2 years that I was there. I mean, again, I didn't get any kind of a push or anything like that, but I'm blessed. You know what I mean? I mean, yeah.
Was there anything that maybe that didn't come to fruition that was supposed to happen during your time there, or
Well, I was hoping that I would get some kind of a deal,
yeah.
but I didn't. And working with DDP is another one. I mean, DDP is the coolest man alive that I respect because in the business. Because when I went to WCW, you know, he was the only person that came up to me and said, "Hey, brother, here's my phone number. If you ever need anything or any help, let me know." And look,
Hmm.
hey, man, he's still the same way. You know what I mean? Helping all these people. I mean, and he even gave me his DDP program himself. I mean, Diamond, he's amazing, man. He's a good person. So he was a real highlight in my time at WCW as well. And meeting, like I said, the Chubba Bubbas. I mean, Johnny
Hmm.
Grunge, God bless him, and Rocco Rock, God bless him. And Hugh Morris. We hung out like we were brothers. You know what I mean? And we had just a great time. But I guess with WCW felt, why pay for the milk when you get the cow for free? If that
Hmm.
makes sense to you. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Why buy the cow if you get the milk for free, whatever. And the reason why I'm saying that is because, I was grateful at the time of wrestling there. And I thought that, maybe they would come up to me and offer me some kind of a deal, but they
Hmm.
were going through a lot of changes. And they gave a lot of guys that I worked with that were on a nightly, like myself,
Hmm.
Rick Fuller, um, uh, Lash LaRue, a lot of guys. They got deals. They weren't big deals, but they got deals. And I'm saying to myself, wow, it's like I'm the only one that ain't getting a deal. So what happened was it came to where I was there going on 2 years doing the nightly. I was blessed and thankful and grateful. And it came to where they sent me an airline ticket to go to wrestle in New Orleans to
Hmm.
wrestle Bill Goldberg again. This is like 2 years later, or a year and a half later, on a Monday Nitro. I sent them the ticket back. I said I can't make it. I figured, okay, maybe they're going to say something, or okay, we need you to be here. What do you need? A deal or something? What you see what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
So they didn't. So the next week they sent me another airline ticket to be in Miami, Florida, to wrestle Bill Goldberg again on the Monday Nitro. And I called and I talked to JJ, and I said, JJ, I'm going to be totally honest with you. I said, I've been wrestling for WCW for 2 years on a nightly. And I said, I've been loyal and doing everything that has been asked of me. And I said, if I can't get a deal, then I'm going to just stop working for
Hmm.
WCW completely because, I mean, 2 years is enough, and it's not,
Yep.
And so he said, well, let me get back to you. And he never got back to me. So I just, went about my business. And like I said, I mean, I'm truly blessed, Brian, because, I wrestled a couple more times in like maybe 6 more months um, in Independence because Johnny Grunge and Rocco Rock ended up leaving there and went to WWF.
Hmm.
That deal, that really was bad. And not only that, um, I got a call from WWF near the end while I was still in WCW, and they were going to. I didn't talk to anybody because I wasn't home. I was on the road, but I got a whiff that. When they had the oddities, they were going to bring me in as a mask oddity on with John Tenta and them. But what ended up happening, if you stop and think about it, they brought the Giant into the WWF
Hmm.
right after this here, and if you think about it, they got rid of all the big guys. They got rid of all the oddities. So there was no reason for them to bring me in because they got the Giant coming over there. And this is when, WCW was starting to fall apart. There were some
Hmm.
East and no Indians, if you know what I mean. And so that just fell through the floor. But I don't think Vince McMahon himself was going to hire me anyways because I ran into Vince a couple times throughout the time,
Hmm.
and all he kept doing was bringing up when I jumped in the ring. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So that let me know there. For a prime example, well, I was over in Japan. Like I said, I was the only foreigner over there other than WWF coming over there. And Randy Savage was over there one time, and he says, "Hey, brother, you're a big brother." He says, well, you live here or what? I said, no, I have a contract with them and I live in the States and, I'm here for 6 months. And he says, wow, when you get back home, you should give Vince a call. I said, well, Vince ain't going to hire me. He says, well, why not, brother? I said, well, because I, told him the deal with, the one man gang. Oh, brother, don't worry about that. Vince will, he'll let that go. He'll forget about that. And not only that, my father was a promoter and, we ran against Vince, and look at where I am. I said, I hear you. Okay, I thank you. So I came home and it just happened to be the same week that WWF was doing a TV taping here in Rochester. So I said, let me go and see the boys and, maybe, you know, Randy will introduce me to Vince and, I'll be all set. And this was before, I wrestled for WCW. And Randy said, oh, brother, come on, let me introduce you to Vince. And I say to myself, wow, he's really going to look out for me, he's going to put me up.
Hmm.
So he goes and knocks on Vince's door. Vince comes out and he looks at me and he looks at Randy. He goes, yeah, what's up, Randy? He says, you know who this guy is? Vince goes, no, I have no idea. And he said, rather than say, well, this guy was over in Japan, this was Roadblock. He wrestled in Japan for 6 months and he's back home, maybe you should give him a dark match. No. First thing he said, this is the guy that jumped in the ring back home here against one man gang in Hogan. He looked at me, shook his head, and turned around and closed the door. And then I'm going to say probably about a year later, they came here again, and it wasn't TV; it was just a house show. And again, I had friends, at the WWF that I became friends with, and I went to the show, and Rene Goulet came up to me and said, "Hey, are you a worker?" I said, "Yeah," and he said, "Well, we have TV tomorrow in Erie, PA. You want a dark match?" I said, "Sure," and I didn't say anything about anything, and I went there. I had my match with one of the what was it? The Bees. Man,
The Killer Bees,
the Killer.
Brian Blair.
Brian Blair. Yes, brother. I'm getting old. I'm losing my mind here. But anyways, Brian Blair. We had a good match, and when I got done, Chief Strongbow came back up to me and he says, "Hey, come on with me." I said, "Sure." And he brought me to, they said, "Wow, he doesn't normally do that." So he brought me to Vince's office, knocked on Vince's office door, and Vince came out. He goes, "Vince, did you see his match?" He goes, "Yeah." And Chief Strongbow goes, "What? Oh, you know him?" He goes, "Yeah. He's the one that jumped in the ring in Rochester a couple of years back." So he never forgot that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I think he really held a grudge towards me for doing that. And the more I think about it, the way Hogan was over with Vince,
Yeah.
I think that made a big difference too. You know what I mean? Because the night I jumped in the ring, well, I was in the ring and I had the one man gang down. The fans were just blowing the roof off the house. I mean, they were just going ballistic. And at that same time, Hogan's walking out to the ring, thinking
Hmm.
they're going crazy for him. And then he gets halfway to the ring and he sees I'm in the ring and he realizes, oh,
Hmm.
this isn't a pop for me. They're going crazy for this guy that jumped in the ring. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that had something to do with it too. But like I said, I'm truly blessed, man. I mean, beyond my belief.
How's life been since after wrestling?
Like I said, I mean, life is uh, beyond my belief, man. I mean, it's kind of surreal because after I got done wrestling, I continued to work for the city.
Hmm.
Retired when I was 62. I got my 30 years in, you know what I mean? Because I worked for this juvenile facility before I started wrestling. I worked at a juvenile facility here. And then I left there and I went into wrestling. And then that was 5 years. And then when I came back between wrestling and that, I got the other 25 years in with the city. And so I got a pension from the state and I get my Social Security. And a guy named Salvatore called me up and asked me if I wanted some wrestling figures made of me. And I'm saying, "Excuse me?" He goes, "I really loved your gimmick, man. I thought that the Roadblock gimmick was really cool, the way you brought the Roadblock and that to the ring."
Hmm.
He says, I'd like to make some wrestling figures of you." And I said, "Okay." So we worked out a deal where he did that. I mean, that's just surreal. You know what I mean? That's beyond my imagination of ever having a wrestling figure made after me, of me. And so he did that. And I had another guy call me up and wanted to make some cards, the wrestling
Hmm.
cards. And I've done a couple of now I'm doing a couple you know um autographs, you know what I mean, going to wrestling conventions. And
Hmm.
hey, the more I could get, I'm so blessed, man. Here it is 30 years later, Brian. I just
Absolutely.
Yeah, man, I'm totally blessed. I don't know if you know Kevin from SN. He does a interview or a podcast at his studio in New
Hmm.
York. Kevin,
Yeah, I know of him.
or yeah, Kenny, K&S
Yes.
Wrestling.
Hmm.
He had a wrestling convention in New York, Long Island, January 3rd. I went there for and I'm looking for any that I could get a call and possibly go on some more.
Where can people reach out to you at?
Um, Facebook or on my email address. I'm not one that really does a lot of social media.
Hmm.
I got a Facebook account. I don't do Instagram. I don't do the
Hmm.
other ones. I mean, other than that, just through my, hopefully through you, doing
Yeah.
the podcast, or, send me an email or, like I said, send me, like you did on Facebook or even call me,
Yeah.
because that's how Kenny got a hold of me. He called me out of the blue. That's how Salvatore for the wrestling figure got a hold of me. Called me out of the blue, and this other guy, I think his name is Dave or something. He's in the New Jersey area. He says he's going to have one this spring. So the more the merrier. I'm just totally blessed, Brian.
Absolutely. I just want to say thank you for taking a little time tonight to come on here and talk about your career. Thank you for what you've done for professional wrestling and continue to do. I'm happy to see even 30 years later, people are still reaching out, sharing their stories, wanting autographs and podcasts and action figures. It's really cool to see how much of an impact that you made with so many people.
Brother, I think that wrestling fans are the most loyal fans of any.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I mean, they're just unbelievable, man. And it's such a blessing,
Hmm.
Grateful for everything, man. I mean, like I said, this just seems so surreal. I mean, was I, any big superstar in the wrestling business? No, but I was blessed to be able to have the spot that I had and go where I went and did what I did and meet the
Hmm.
people I met, and you know, later on down the road, we didn't get into this, but when I started doing independence after WCW, believe it or not, um, what's his name? Like I said, I'm starting to lose my mind here. Um, uh, what's the sisters? Who did I say that I seen at the gym? Hogan and
Beefcake?
Beefcake. Man, I'm sorry, brother. I don't know what
No,
I'm
you're good.
having a brain freeze or something, but Beefcake and I, we met, and he noticed me, recognized me, and he says, "Hey, brother, man, I'm really sorry about at the gym." I said, "Brother, you ain't got to explain to me. It's all good, man. I'm blessed." And we started traveling together, doing independence.
Hmm.
I went to the dark match at WWF, and Slick walks up by me, and he looks at me, he shakes his head back and forth, he scratches his head, he goes, oh, hell no, you mother effer, you stay right there, don't you go nowhere, don't you go nowhere. And I'm just sitting there and laughing, to myself. What does he do? He goes gets a one man gang, and he goes and because him and Boss Man were partners at the time.
Hmm.
They both came, and uh, the one man gang looks at me and he goes, "What?" He says, "You're wrestling?" I said, "Yeah, I'm blessed, man. Just trying to get into business, and sorry for what I did with to you. I just trying to get into business." And he goes, "Don't worry about it, brother. It's all good. At least I know now. You know, if we get in the ring, at least I know it's a work and it's not a shoot." And it was just amazing how things did a full circle. You know what I mean? And God is great, man. God is great.
So you mentioned about the oddities. Is that something you would have pursued or done, or do you feel like they would have given you a contract, or would that position, if it would have came to fruition, would that have been like a nightly thing like WCW?
I don't think that Vince had Knightley's
Hmm.
that kind of a position. I don't know. It might have, but I believe that I would have probably got some kind of a deal. But again,
Hmm.
like I said, it wasn't Vince McMahon that called me. It was one of his agents,
Hmm.
or whoever was doing his storylines or whatever.
Is
Oh,
that
Vince Russo. It was Vince
okay?
because he was running WWF for a while there.
Hmm. Is that something you would have actively been like, yeah, I'll be a part of that?
Absolutely, especially to lead the WCW, knowing that they had their opportunity, and I'm
Hmm.
grateful for what they've given me and the opportunity they gave me. But I mean, that's just the way it is in the business. I mean, how many guys went from WCW to WWF? You know what I mean? I
Hmm.
mean, that's just the way the business is. Baseball, football, basketball. You go
Hmm.
where money is. Where you
Hmm.
get that deal.
Absolutely. You said you did the independents for a little bit after your WCW run. What ultimately made you make the decision to kind of step back from wrestling and just pursue other things?
I realized that, once I was done with the WCW and they were folding, and I realized that Vince had brought the Giant in,
Hmm.
I felt that, and Vince knowing and feeling in my heart that Vince didn't want anything to do with me. He held a grudge. I believe that. I mean, whether he did or he didn't, I don't know. But, I'm a firm believer in action speaks louder than words.
Hmm.
Vince's actions were totally where, he was not happy with me. So I thought, I mean, how long am I going to keep doing independence? I mean, I could have went back to Japan, but I declined to do that because, the last time I went to Japan was December 31st, 1992,
Hmm.
and my dad was passing away on me. And I flew to Japan and I called up, believe this or not, home on January 1st. And I asked my mom, how's dad doing? And she said, well, he's got the death rattle. And I said, okay. So I got off the phone and I ended up flying right back home. I didn't even wrestle. So I basically got on the airplane, flew to Japan, went to sleep, woke up, and flew back home. You know what I mean? Because my dad passed
Hmm.
away. And after that, I just didn't go back to Japan anymore. Not that I had any great deal going on there either, but I just, like I said, I was so blessed with everything I was handed.
Hmm.
I was okay with, you know, knowing that, okay, here I am. I have a job with the city of Rochester. Let me do my time and realize and think about my future because, again, like I said, there's so many guys that
Hmm.
are struggling that wrestled so long and that
Hmm.
were much, much higher on the billboards as far as wrestling than I was that
Hmm.
are just struggling to make ends meet now, you know what I mean? And I'm so blessed that, I have my pension, I have my social security, my house is paid for. I'm just overwhelmingly blessed, man. It's a blessing, man. I can't explain it any more than that. It's a blessing, so to have been able to experience what I did, the way I had went about it, and everything is just, you know, it's I don't know what to say, man. You know what I mean? How many guys do you know personally that jumped in the ring, got into the business, ended up, getting a wrestling figure made out after him and
Hmm.
wrestling cars made after him. I mean, even though I wasn't no, main eventer everywhere I went, you know, I'm truly blessed. I mean, I remember when I was in Mexico, brother, I was wrestling Chris Jericho when he first started. He was first starting, and I was wrestling in Mexico, and it's like, he became one of the, how can I say, fill-in Chubba Bubbas. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Because we all hung out, and we knew each other. He knew Hugh Morris and that, and I knew him from Mexico, and it's like I called him after he ended up going to what is that, AWE,
AEW.
AEW.
Hmm.
That's how much I'm out of the wrestling business that, as far as watching it.
Hmm.
Other than the women, I think the women are just phenomenal to watch over the guys because I just think they're so, you know, unbelievable the way they work. But
Hmm.
anyways, I called Jericho and no call, no show, no answer, no nothing. I mean, I think he just moved on. He forgot where he come from. But hey, it's all good. It's not like I'm doing, he needs to hear me. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
God bless him because I mean, Chris made it big.
Hmm.
He made it big, and I think he might be going back to Vince just to close out in the Hall of Fame. I think
Hmm.
you heard that.
That's the rumor.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much because I mean, what else does he need to close his wrestling career
That's
other
true.
than being in the Wrestling Hall of Fame?
That's true.
You know what I mean? And how
Hmm.
about this? Like I say, I'm so blessed because, you know, not tooting my own horn, but I'm in 2 Wrestling Hall of Fames amateur wise. You know what I mean? I'm in the
Hmm.
local Hall of Fame here in high school, and I'm in the National Hall of Fame for NJCAA wrestling. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
I'm blessed. I mean, Professional Wrestling Hall of Fame, you got a better chance of hitting the lottery tomorrow.
So I know you're open to doing more appearances and podcasts and conventions.
Absolutely,
Is there
absolutely. And I
what's
mean,
your put your email out there so people can reach out to you?
um, how about my email address? Would that be
Okay.
good?
Yeah.
And it's real simple. The Roadblock, spelled TheRoadblock, the number 49 at gmail.com. The Roadblock 49 at gmail.com. And I'm on Facebook too,
Okay.
under I believe it's Joseph F.
Hmm.
Diaquino Sr., I think.
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah. Other than that, I'm not on any other, social medias, but Lord bless me, somebody will call me or, and I
Hmm.
keep it going, man.
Yeah. Thank you. Absolutely.
And I
You
thank
know,
you. Thank you. You're a heck of a man. I thank you, man. I
thank
appreciate
you. I appreciate you. And thank you for what you've done for professional wrestling and what you continue to do. And I hope nothing but good things continue to come your way, sir.
it. Yes, sir. I thank you again, Brian.
And
Have a blessed one, man.
if there's ever anything that I can do, please feel free to reach out.
I will definitely do that. I will do that. I appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you and I appreciate your time tonight, sir.
Yes, sir. You have a blessed night.
You too.
Take care, Brian.